Hey everybody, Andrew Zimmern here. Familiar t-shirt, neither new nor old, not in a hotel room. Super grateful for that. And I'm guessing I won't be for a little while. Well, that's not true, actually. I'll probably be doing these from hotel rooms the next couple weekends. I am on the road. Not gonna lie, next weekend, Vegas, Dead and Company, the last weekend of the Dead and Company residency at the Sphere. I'm so excited. I was at the first one, now I'm going to the last one, super pumped. Speaking of music, what I'm listening to now, a lot of Derek and Susan. Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi, Tedeschi Trucks Band. They were just here in the Twin Cities. Just the best. If you love rootsy, Americana, bluesy rock and roll that is just mind-boggling in its musical sensibilities and the skill set of the entire band, you got to listen to Derek and Susan. They are absolutely amazing. Crush Me, they played 2 nights here in town. I went to night number 1. Lucky enough, I know them and was blessed to be side stage for the show. They just crushed it, and I had just seen the clip of them at Red Rocks doing "Angel from Montgomery" into "Sugary," "Sugary" being one of my favorite songs ever. And well, ditto "Angel from Montgomery," right? If you don't love John Prine's "Angel from Montgomery," most people know the Bonnie Raitt version. Susan Tedeschi does an incredible version of it, and she and Derek have been performing this song into Sugary for a while now. I got to see it in Colorado 2023, and I was all psyched because I figured, okay, they got to play it, and then they didn't, and someone said, oh yeah, they're going to play it tomorrow night. I said, what do you mean tomorrow night? They're like, they're here for 2 nights, but I couldn't go last night. Such are the slings and arrows of live music addiction. Huge plug for live music. Go see local bands, go see bands near you, go out, watch music, support your local music venues. Twin Cities exploding with music venues. Huge shout out to the Armory. I've been to a couple shows there this last year. Just what an outstanding venue. As I'm little fun note, I'm standing backstage. Margot Price had opened up for them. Crowd's going nuts, lights are going down. I can hear feet behind me. The band is coming up. They're getting ready to go out and take their place on the stage. And there's a tap on my shoulder, and it's Derek Trucks. And he leans down over to me and he says, hey. And I'm like, hey. And, usually before the show, that's not the time that they've got their show face on. It's not the time to be saying hi to friends backstage. And he's like, this is like an old school badass rock and roll club. And I said, it is. And it was such an apt description. And he said it with such joy in his voice, like, this is gonna be a great show. And they just crushed it. And huge shout out to the Minneapolis audience. They were incredible and fed great energy back to the band. And it was just a fantastic night on Friday. They are touring. They're in St. Louis now. They are going to be in a town near you soon. I'm going to try to catch them New York, September 23rd, New York City. But if they come to a town near you, go see it. Badass show. Okay, news and notes from my editor. A controversial bill introduced in New York City seeks to shift hiring power in hotel restaurants from the restaurant to hotel management. This is something that's been going on for a long time. It is happening now more and more formally and is part of contracted negotiations for leases and other things. Hotels' point of view is if they're putting up a lot of the money and taking on a lot of the risk, why shouldn't they have their employees there? Problem is, what you're trying to do as a hotel is take Chef X's vision and culture and all the rest of that. You can't do that with employees that don't come out of Chef X's machine, their systems. But yeah, it's happening everywhere. Interesting article in Eater. It's also happening in other areas as well. We have a Labor Standard Board's proposal that's coming up in Minneapolis that our city council is putting forth. And the shame of that is that you're going to have people advising on labor relations within restaurants who don't work in restaurants. And that's not right. Civil Eats. I saw this article. My editor shot it back at me. I'd already read it. Was going to talk about it tonight. You have to read. We're going to post it here for you. It's a Civil Eats article about growing the blue economy. A super important vital step in both protecting our oceans, but also producing out of them and creating incredible foodstuffs for all of you. The blue economy being one's, economy that comes from producing out of our oceans, lakes, streams, waterways, and water systems. But this particular column, Civil Eats, I'm a subscriber. I pay every year. It's one of the checks I write most happily. If you're not a paying member of Civil Eats, you should become one. It's some of the best food journalism on planet Earth. Huge shout out Naomi Starkman, and just a dozen other voices. I mean, I learn so much every time I read Civil Eats. But it's a great article on the problems that kelp farmers are facing, and it echoes a lot of the themes that we put in our latest documentary, Hope in the Water, which if you're not watching it on PBS, you should be. It's in reruns. It's on the PBS streamer. So proud of that show. And huge shout out to Barrington Thurston, Martha Stewart, Shailene Woodley, and Chef Jose Andres for being such superb contributors to it. And to my whole team at Intuitive Content. Crushed it, knocked it out of the park. All right, on to your questions. Omar says, okay, I'll bite. Where can I go bungee jumping in Switzerland? Omar, never been bungee jumping in Switzerland. I was doing that thing that people do where they make a for instance out of something that they haven't necessarily done. What are some other thrilling activities you recommend from your travels? Well, I will tell you, the first thing that popped into my mind, because I wouldn't say it's an extreme sport, but it can be. In Berlin, the last time I was there, I went to the old Tempelhof airport. It's closed. And they have these massive runways. And there's a lot of wind that comes along such big, open, flat spaces. And so what they've done is they've taken surfboards, put sails on them, and instead of kiteboarding on water, you do it on land. They put wheels on them, right? With micro suspensions, and you literally can go surfboarding on land. And it's just a fucking blast. So there's a great one for the next time you're in Berlin. But I encourage people when you go and travel to look for things that you like to do. A lot of cool stuff to do in Berlin, actually. And it's a dirty, fun city, if you know what I mean. I mean, nighttime, nightclubs, restaurants, late night performance spaces, the art scene there, it's a blast. Charles writes, is there a way to tell if an eggplant will be bitter before you cook it? Well, two things are necessary. First, the eggplant needs to be mature. If it's not mature, it's too green on the inside, the seed columns haven't developed, and the problem there is that you've almost got to guarantee it's going to be bitter. All eggplant will trend towards bitterness, but that's why I slice it, salt both sides, put it on a rack, like a cookie sheet rack, right? With paper toweling underneath it to handle the dripping water. And every 15 minutes, I just keep turning it and pressing it with more paper toweling. And I do that for about 2 hours so I really get all of that bitter liquid out of the seeds. And that takes care of it for my eggplant. Ariel writes, what are some ways I can be a better diner beyond just tipping more and being polite? Well, if you're tipping more and you're being polite, you're 99% of the way there, Ariel, but I'll tell you, support your local places nearest your house. That's number one. Try to support new restaurants. New restaurants, I find it thrilling and exciting, even the meals that are disappointing, because it makes the good meals all that much better, but also reminds me about how hard it is to actually create a good restaurant. It's one of the toughest things to do, not just from a business standpoint, but from a services standpoint of what you're offering the customer. What the give get is very, very, very difficult to establish. So one of the things that you could do is just try more, right? That doesn't mean fancier places. That doesn't mean, that I want you to part with more of your discretionary income if you can. It just means that that's a really great way to be a better diner, is to dine out more frequently. So then you're sort of upping up your restaurant wisdom, as it were. And then the other thing that you can do is you can start spreading the gospel of both frequenting restaurants, better tipping, and being nicer to employees there. And by the way, we always talk about being polite to restaurant workers, people in the service industry. In general, we should strive to be that way with everyone, right? Great question, though. Simone writes, this is a great question. If restaurants price seating times differently based on demand, I talked about this last week, the idea being that, if you want a peak time theater ticket or a movie ticket or airline ticket or hotel room, you're going to pay more for it. In other words, a great hotel room is going to cost more on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday in a big city than a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Anyway, we talked about this, and I think it's a trend. I think it's a great way for restaurants to make a little bit more money. Restaurants need to make more money. It's a very, very, very important part of the economics of restaurants, is that they have underserved themselves for the last 20, 30 years by not charging what it costs to put the food on the plate. And they tried to make it up at the bar. It was always like, oh, we'll charge more in alcohol, but we're not really, a viable business industry, because we're not bringing on average across the board 20% to the bottom line. Restaurants, if you want a healthy restaurant business, you got to bring at least 20% to the bottom line. It does not work if you don't do it, unless you have some other way to ring the cash register, like private events or a catering company, and you're playing a little bit of a balancing act. But anyway, she writes, won't that create an imbalance in access? Would Saturday night become limited to just the wealthiest diners? You need to figure out what you mean by wealthiest. That is a variable issue, right? Why is that a variable issue? I'm not talking about 3-star Michelin restaurants where it costs $500 a person to dine in. I'm just talking about like the neighborhood bistro that happens to take reservations. Any place that takes reservations. And by the way, restaurants that don't take reservations might want to think about raising their prices on Saturday night, where they do the most business. Every entree, every appetizer, making $1 more. The point is, restaurants have to find less conventional ways of making money. And how it would change the industry as a whole, it'd be so much better for it. Restaurants would be healthier economies, and they would be able to take care of their employees better. So many restaurants that I know, the owners take whatever profit they have and they put it back into the business, including into towards the employees, so that they can offer them, because it's very hard to keep good employees, so they have to offer them all kinds of different perks, which as restaurant owners, we should be. But that means they're not able to take dollars out of the business or make other improvements, let's say, to the bathrooms, or buy new equipment, or do special events or other things that make restaurants vibrant for the customers and vibrant for their communities. So I think that Saturday night would not become limited to just the wealthiest diners, because it would just become, well, let me rephrase that. because I want to be very specific here. If you raised prices by 5% on Saturday night, or you charged, I mean, it's saying stupid, no one would do this, charge $5 a head as a service charge for a reservation that night, or any other way that you could make money on a Saturday night reservation versus a Tuesday night reservation. What would happen is the people who go on Saturday nights would be the ones that want that time in particular. And that's not necessarily the wealthiest people. A lot of people with no money want to stay home on Saturday nights. A lot of people with lots of money want to stay home on Saturday nights. It's just that Saturday night, Friday and Saturday nights are the busiest nights in restaurants in general, as a rule. So you should charge more for the privilege of being there. It just makes all the sense in the world to me. And limited to the wealthiest, I know I'm parsing those words, Simone. It's a fascinating question, but I just don't think that's truly how it works. And if you can afford to go to the restaurant in the first place, would you pay 5 or 10% more for a better seat at a better time on a better night? I mean, we already do it with hotels and airlines and all sorts of other places, baseball games. Why wouldn't we do it at restaurants? Emil writes, everyone says a great knife is the most important tool for a chef. Second most important tool. Most important tool for a chef is up here. No, I just thought of that. In your opinion, what's the second most important? Oh gosh. I don't know. If your most important tool is your knife, your second most important tool is how you use it, right? And that skill set that comes with just about everything. If I had to think of what my second, I'm looking around my kitchen. I'm actually at the counter in my kitchen, so I'm facing into it. What could I absolutely not live, and I'm not going to say something stupid or clever like my sharpening kit for my knife. I don't know. I guess a great potter pan. Some people who do a lot of baking would probably say their standing mixer, although you could do a lot of things with your hands. For me, the more and more I work, is I'm staring at 4 of them are my mortar pestle sets. I can make mayonnaise in them, sambals, crushed nuts, spices. I do so much in my with my mortar and pestle sets. Second most important. Oh, you know what? And this is going to get us into an interesting discussion. My oven. I think this is like, I don't know, the 5th or 6th house that I've owned. And it's the first one where I ever was able to build my own kitchen. All the other kitchens, when I got the house, kitchen was fine. It wasn't like I was going to buy a house with a shitty kitchen, but I always wanted to move a wall, bring in some other equipment, move some stuff around, change the piping, get an air vent here, move things around, make a really workable, functional kitchen that I loved cooking in. And finally, with this house, when we came to, when I sat down and talked to the builders and the architect, they were like, yeah, you can do whatever you want in this kitchen. And I freaked out. The reason I couldn't before was that when I wanted to move a wall or push it back, it was a load-bearing wall, or couldn't punch through that because that's where all the HVAC, the only place the HVAC could run through. And there was always a reason. So I was able to bring in all the ovens that I wanted. And if you've been watching my recipes here, I'm a big Gaggenau guy for home use. It's very sleek. It's very modern. It's not clunky looking. I just love how it performs. They are so insanely well insulated. They are so consistent and spot on with their, when it says 275, you throw a thermometer in there, it's 275. And I can low temp cook. I can go down to 150 in my ovens. In my steam convection combi oven from Gaggenau, which is just the coolest thing ever, my favorite type of oven, and Gaggenau makes a great one for homes. I can low temp defrost at 80, 90 degrees up to 140. I can proof dough in the same, without even opening the door. I could steam the bread and then bake it. It's really an incredible machine. And so a really good, consistent, rock solid oven, I mean, that's, kind of important. Yeah, I'll go with that. Oh, a great, and we were talking about great pots and pans. I don't think I could live. I have a couple of really great woks that, are so well seasoned. I can do anything in them. And I love my woks. Anuta writes, what chili crisp do you use? I use the one we make. About 10 years ago, the culinary director, J.P. Samuelson at our hospitality company, and I developed I took my chili crisp recipe. We made it together a couple of times, and then he plussed it up, I think, to make a 2-gallon batch. It's a lot of chili crisp. We put a lot of oil in ours so that we can use the hot chili oil, and we also have all those wonderful solids at the bottom that we use to season a lot of dishes. And the reason the reason that we plussed up the recipe from a batch size and really nailed it and spent a lot of time on it is that I cook a lot of Chinese food. And so when we go on the road, we want to bring that. It's a real signature flavor of ours. We have a lot of sweet spices in there. We have a lot of rare chilies and Szechuan peppercorns of all different types in there, green, red, some ones that my friends send me from Chengdu. And it's a really special ingredient. And I love it. On the commercial side, the ones that I've tasted that I like all the different ones from Lao Gan Ma, which if you're going to go to an Asian market and buy one off the shelf, there you go. I love Jing Gao's Szechuan chili crisp, Fly by Jing. And her book, I think it's called The Book of Chili Crisp, is exceptional, really fun. And I love her, she's a friend of mine, and she's the first one that told me, yeah, put chili crisp on vanilla ice cream. And I did, and it was awesome. So there you go. Riley writes, my partner's birthday is coming up. They don't like sweets. What savory dish would you make a good cake substitute to put candles in? Oh my gosh, whatever their favorite food is. Don't try to decide what to put candles in based on what dish I tell you. Think about what they love. If their favorite thing is gazpacho, drip some hot wax on the side of the bowl, stick the candle there, put the gazpacho in, light it, and sing happy birthday. If you want to bring a big ta-da something out of the oven, do a great roast. I mean, and I'm not trying to be weird here, but like if you roasted a whole fish and put a candle in it and came out, I think that would be a blast. So yeah, think about what their favorite food is and then do it. Lots of readers want me to have my lamb. Do not worry about me. Again, I was 100% telling the truth last week, but yeah, I order lamb from all kinds of places. I just can't, and great lamb. And Catherine wrote about some purveyors, both in California and in Virginia that I frequent. Go online, buy from a local farmer. My big problem was I wanted, it was spur of the moment thing. I'm like, oh, I want to serve lamb tonight. And in the Twin Cities, you can't do it. If I order in lamb, I'm going to get a whole bunch. I'm not a one-time, I don't order a lamb leg. I'm going to do the shipping and the handling and all the rest of that. Send me 3 lamb legs and 6 racks of chops, and I'll put it in my chest freezer. So it'll be frozen anyway. And I'm like, come on, Minnesota, let's get some fresh lamb going. Maybe that's a good side hustle for me. Maybe I should get in the lamb business. Anyway, Susie wrote, check these Twin Cities farm food vendors, amazing lamb, not cheap, it never is, right? But I think you'll love their sustainable practices and grass-fed meats. And she sent me a link that we'll put up there. So if you're in Minnesota and you're looking to get lamb, there is a resource called TC Farm, and you can get all kinds of pasture-raised lamb. There's a beautiful smoked lamb heart on here that I absolutely love. Kidneys, lamb liver, which is great. Ground lamb, fantastic. 16 bucks a pound. That's awesome. Lamb chops, rack, 80 bucks a pound. That's spendy. But a 5-pound leg of lamb is a little over $100. That's not bad at 20 bucks a pound. Depends how big the lamb leg is. I'm going to, yearling lamb, 6.6. So their 5.5 one has got to be probably around 9-10 months. Just beautiful. So we will stick that on the bottom. So if you're in Minnesota, you can order from a local place. Everyone have a great rest of your week. Support local restaurants, support local music clubs, cook lots of food, make your own chili crisp. Cool recipe coming this week. I haven't thought of what I'm going to make, but I'm going to try to make it cool. Okay, see you later.